Unsolved Mysteries Rewind is a commercial-free podcast that focuses on cases featured on the television show Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack. Each episode features a single case and, if possible, updates and an expansion on the original story. Listener discretion is advised for listeners who are sensitive to true crime details.
Tonight on Unsolved Mysteries Rewind, two friends get together to discuss episodes of their favorite television show, Unsolved Mysteries. Will they find answers? Will anyone care? You may be able to solve a mystery.
Hello, this is Mark, and you are listening to another episode of Unsolved Mysteries Rewind. I have on today joining me to cover a very interesting case. Catherine, how are you, Catherine?
I'm good, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this today. The episode we're talking about, do you want to give us a rundown as to what the episode is and all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so this is a season 5 episode. The crime happened on June 13th, 1992 in Turtle Creek, Pennsylvania. Mark, you did note that the reenactment is quite elaborate with the police in the background.
Mm-hmm.
But anywho, David Hurley, he was 34 years old. His wife was Pam. And they kind of gave a history of David and Pam. They were married in the early 80s, had 3 sons by 1988. And David worked in maintenance at a local hospital, but had a hernia operation with a complication, and he ended up disabled.
And, I'm not really sure what level of disability he had. They didn't really go into that. We didn't really get much of an explanation of that, even offline. But, I mean, I don't know if it was something that made it so that driving was difficult, or I don't know.
I don't know.
We have to speculate. There's not a lot of information about that.
He could have just been living off, maybe he ended up suing the hospital and living off.
That's possible, because we do learn later that there's a possibility that there was money somewhere anyway.
Right.
And he was, he volunteered. He took his time, I guess. He took his free time and he gave back to the community. It looks like he was a coach, and he dealt with a ton of activities that his kid was in, or all of his children were in. He had 3 kids. We learn later there is a 4th, but we'll get into that. 3 boys, David, Sean, and Stephen, 9, 6, and 4. And I don't know if they were all, in like Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts, but there was a Boy Scout trip coming, and They were going to go canoeing.
Right. So I think it was actually his brother's kids. So he had to be up early on Saturday, June 13th, 1992. David and his brother were chaperoning a long-awaited Boy Scout trip. David couldn't sleep and decided to leave early to grab donuts.
And this seems normal. Okay, he's going to go to his brother's house. He's going to pick up, some snacks to have for everyone when they wake up. I guess I can accept that. But do you want to talk about what happens next?
Well, David woke up about 1:30 a.m., couldn't sleep. So he told his wife he was going to leave early to grab donuts.
Wait, didn't he leave at 1:30?
That's what I'm not sure of. He said, Unsolved Mysteries said he was awake at 1:30, was at the donut shop between 3 and 3:30. So when did he leave his house? We're not sure.
I'm pretty sure it was said that he left the house at 1:30 to get donuts because he was too, I'm paraphrasing here, he was too jazzed up to sleep.
Okay.
So I'm under the assumption that he left at 1:30 to his brother's house. And, of course, 24-hour donuts, this is one of these things that people started going back and forth about. It's like, I don't know where you can go and get donuts at 1:30. I mean, if you live in a metropolitan area, there's been 24-hour spots since the 80s.
Yeah, so my dad worked midnights. He was a distribution manager for the Detroit News. So he had to work midnights in downtown Detroit, and he would come home. We lived in Metro Detroit, but he worked midnights, and he would grab donuts for us on his way home.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is Detroit a happening city. It's like one of these, bustling, active cities. Of course, you're going to find 24-hour things. And Turtle Creek, PA, maybe it's not bustling exactly, but there's a Dunkin' Donuts open, even back in the 90s, I think.
So, backtracking a second, David's brother Bill had asked him to accompany his troop on the canoe trip, and they were to meet at St. John the Baptist Church in Plumboro, Pennsylvania at 5 a.m. So I'm thinking if David grabbed the donuts at 3:30, and then he's at his brother's house by 4, maybe. If his brother had to be at the church by 5, he was probably up by 4.
What's weird to me is, I'll bring up my one thing that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But yeah, so he left. I mean, we don't have an exact time. So we left. I didn't really take it into consideration that he left later than 1:30. So I'm actually, as you were talking, I'm going to try to fact check that really quickly and see if I can actually dig up the
time he left.
Yeah, what they actually say. I mean, not that it's the word, but it's at least why I might be alluding to why it's happening.
Okay.
I'm sorry, go on.
Between 3 and 3:30 a.m., Dave stopped at the Penn Center Dunkin' Donuts in Wilkins Township, then drove westbound on Business Route 22 to meet his brother in Penn Hill. Along the way, he was involved in a very minor traffic accident when his van was bumped on the side by another car, according to Tom Wolfson, the Allegheny County homicide detective. Do we know who was the at-fault driver?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a no-fault situation because of the outcome. You know, it's just one of those, you can't determine, even from the damage, who hit who, if it's a side,
Okay.
There's no cameras, there's no, 1992, I'm going to guess there's really almost nothing, no surveillance going on.
Right. Because I've heard of two, you accident. I've actually seen on the freeway before, somebody got rear-ended and the at-fault driver pulled over and was ready to exchange insurance, and the car that got rear-ended zoomed off the freeway, exited the freeway and zoomed away. So it's like, it wasn't even your fault. Why is it a hit and run?
One.
So, yeah, the at-fault driver was being an honest Abe, and the person who wasn't at fault left the scene. So I think it would just be interesting to know who was the at-fault driver. But in either way, according to Unsolved Mysteries, around 3 a.m., David returns yelling that he's been shot.
Now, I do want to just bring up that it specifically says here in the script, Robert Stack says David left home at 1:30 a.m.
Okay.
And about an hour and a half later, Pamela started to hear her husband calling out. So we have to take into consideration that I also want to mention that where the car accident happened is only 2 miles from his house.
Okay.
So I think these are important things to take into consideration. nearly an hour and a half after he left the house, he gets into a car accident and comes back home. Now, I don't know how long it took him to get from the accident to home. Could have taken a while. I mean, he was certainly wounded, but there's a lot of missing time here that is just completely unaccounted for. So I just think it's an important thing to think about. What was he doing for this period of time?
Who knows?
Well, I think that's the important aspect of it. It's kind of like what could have led up to being shot. And, and that's where I think the speculation really comes in with a case like this. Because if we're going to believe he just bought donuts and he was a victim of a random attack, that's fine. But where were you, for an hour?
And what I was wondering, too, is was his plan to grab donuts, go to his brother's house, and then go to the church to meet up for the canoe trip? Or was his plan to grab donuts, go back to his house, pack up a bit, and then go meet his brother?
Yeah. It's a very, if we just say it's a random crime, then it's simple. Then it's done, right? Almost. Because he comes home, he's clearly hurt, he's bleeding. She freaks out, of course, calls an ambulance. There happened to be somebody, we learned this outside of Unsolved Mysteries, somebody lived on their block who is an EMT or somebody who would normally come, and he was the first person on the scene. Maybe they got a call. I don't know how he would have known. I mean, it is 3:30 in the morning after all.
Right. So while they're waiting for paramedics and authorities to arrive, Pam sits Dave down at their kitchen table, and Dave tells her what happened. He got sideswiped and got out of his green van to exchange insurance information, while the driver of the other car, who was a black male in his mid to late 20s, punched him first and then shot him in the shoulder, then in the lower chest with a .380 automatic.
Now, he got close enough to this person physically to be punched, which is weird to me.
And so Pam feels that the killer was just out to finish the job when he sent a third bullet through Dave's back as he turned to run away. And the shot in the back ended up being the lethal bullet.
Yeah, I mean, and the .380 automatic is a pretty serious gun. This is before the automatic bans.
Okay.
And, I guess any shot can be fatal. We have to also keep in mind that nobody else had the opportunity to interview David. It's Pam who's sharing this story, right? She's not a professional story, I guess, gatherer. The police didn't have an opportunity to do that. Yes, interviewer. And it's somebody who's in shock to begin with, because her husband, of course, is bleeding all over everything and is clearly in a life-threatening situation. But to be able to absorb all this information, I just have to guess that some of it could not have been 100% accurate, accurately remembered.
So the police and paramedics arrive at the Hurley house, and it says, too, that the police didn't go in the house right away because they didn't know what was going on, and they were afraid that the shooter may have still been in the house. But they do end up going... What'd you say?
I think it's a weird thing because nobody said that the shooting happened there. I mean, as far as we know.
Right.
So I'm just kind of curious why the police wouldn't come in when nobody's announcing that there's an active shooter.
Right.
It's a very strange thing. Maybe there's some type of local rule that they have to follow for their own protection, of course. Just not sure.
So finally, according to Unsolved Mysteries, paramedics and police were at the house by 3:30 a.m. Officer Michael Pruley stated that David was calm for someone who had just been shot, was concerned about getting info to get the message out. What do you mean by that, Mark?
Basically, he was concerned that he wants to tell the story. Like, he wants to, I think I'm alluding to the officer as being concerned about getting the story from David as accurately as possible.
Gotcha.
And, as you see, they didn't go too far into questioning at this point because they think that he's actually not going to be in a life-threatening situation, which is what I think is kind of crazy. At this point, they probably examined him and saw, all right, you've been shot 3 times, but you know what? You're alert. You're alive. You should possibly, you might pull through here. And then they put him on the gurney, and he started having breathing issues.
Yep, started having breathing issues on the gurney. He was transported by a helicopter to Presbyterian University Hospital in Oakland. He went into emergency surgery at 4:30 a.m. and he died at 6:15 after being shot, and he was bleeding internally from a lacerated liver.
Which I'm assuming that his liver was shot. Just not 100% sure, because that's the kind of injury that would normally happen with somebody getting beaten up.
Right. So what I wanted to ask and what I was wondering is, was he like beaten up before he was shot? Or like was he, because he said he was punched once and then shot 3 times.
Right.
I wonder if the punch was harder than he let on.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Beaten up worse than he let on.
I kept thinking he was hit in the face. I don't know. It just, my visual went immediately to he's having this confrontation and he got punched in the face. And then I'm probably thinking that too because his face is bleeding in the reenactment. But of course the reenactment could be completely false. And that's it. He's dead. He's 34 years old, father of 3 with an asterisk. And that's it. That's kind of like where our story, for the most part, ends. Except...
Right. I do want to mention, too, that the surgeon did tell Pam that the operation had progressed well until, without warning, David went into acute cardiac arrest.
Yeah.
And then at about 6:30, somebody in a suit and tie came to talk to Pam. And at first she goes, "Oh, that was quick. It must have went well." But somebody in her family with a medical background said, "No, that person should be in scrubs. Why are they in a suit and tie?" Turns out it was a homicide detective coming to talk to Pam. And that's where we find that David died at 6:15, unfortunately, at 34 years old.
Yeah, that's sad. Sad for anybody to be killed like this, and leaving behind children and a family. So let's see. So we do learn later. We learn this from, what is the name of the site that you frequent? The
Sitcoms Online.
Which is a great place. It's a great rabbit hole place to go to and look up all of your favorite TV shows. But in particular, Unsolved Mysteries seems to be a pretty active part of that particular website. And all right, so it's kind of weird to even start. I wrote like an overview because I was kind of going down like there's this, there's that, there's all this kind of stuff. Actually, why don't we talk about the follow-up of after the death?
Okay.
Pam brings up that, and a lot of this is found outside of Unsolved Mysteries, is that Pam's brother reached out to the producers of Unsolved Mysteries to help find Dave's killer. In 1995, Wolfson, the police officer Wolfson, police got a break in the investigation when a crime lab determined that a gun involved in another case matched the gun used in David's murder. But because the gun had changed hands since the murder, the investigation led nowhere. You and I were talking about this before we hit record.
What does changed hands mean? That sounds so suspicious to me.
I'm gonna just, my opinion is that it was an illegal gun. And whoever currently had it could prove that they were not in the vicinity to shoot David at the time of the murder. And that's it. I mean, it had to have been sold on the streets. Don't buy a gun on the streets. It could have been, used in a murder.
And we were also talking too that the automatic guns became illegal.
Mm-hmm.
According to the Firearm Owners Protection Act of 1986, on May 19th, 1986, the Firearm Owner Protection Act banned the transfer and possession of machine guns So
I didn't know it was so close to this case. I thought they were still legal at this point, but I guess not. So you said it's 86?
It was an illegal weapon, and B, had changed hands.
Yeah, it was definitely a black market gun. Somebody just selling it on the streets. And I guess, it could have been anybody. I don't know. It's just weird to me that they found the gun, which is crazy to me. And who knows why they found that gun? Did it...
Or how?
Yeah, what happened? For them to find the gun, test the gun... I'm wondering, do police, when they find the gun, do they just run it through forensics?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe it got confiscated because it's an illegal weapon.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they have CODIS for fingerprints. I'm sure they have something similar for ballistics.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. Pam says that she got a call from police a few years ago. I don't know when that was written exactly, but years ago, that a warrant had been issued through the DEA for someone who was a possible suspect, but it also went nowhere. Police believe, I don't know why they are not, I don't know how we can just kind of throw a statement like police believe, but it's written out there in the world. Police believe they know who killed Dave. Officer Wolfson says the potential suspect is, quote, a good one. We certainly hope this guy messes up down the line. So it's a guy. That's one thing. We know
it's a guy because David said it was a guy.
David said a lot of stuff. He also said it took him, an hour to drive 2 miles. We never quite had enough evidence to make an arrest. We've always believed there are particular people who have much more information but are afraid to get involved. I don't know. It seems kind of dramatic at this point.
But Pam says that according to police, there is a woman that holds the key to convicting the killer.
What? A woman? That's weird because we are about to talk about a woman. I don't know.
She's begging for help, asking whoever has information or whoever has the key to convicting the perpetrator. Imagine, what is it like? Do you have kids? What is it like to lose your husband and the father of your children?
Yeah. Now, up to this point.
And yeah, that's kind of where it ends.
But up to this point, putting aside the online drama just for a moment, what is your opinion as to what happened here? Do you have an opinion? Maybe you're just like...
I think it was a minor fender bender. Doesn't matter whose fault it was. It was a minor fender bender.
Mm-hmm.
And the perpetrator probably wasn't supposed to be driving, maybe had a warrant out on his arrest, and he obviously had an illegal gun on him. So he didn't want to be involved.
So he shot someone?
He could have just driven away.
Yeah.
For David's sake, or for David's own safety, he could have just driven away. But he was probably afraid that maybe Dave had his license plate number, or Dave had already called the police, or what. So he's trying to cover up his own bum and shot Dave, which I think is overkill in a sense.
No pun intended.
Pun not intended.
Yeah.
Is overkill.
Well, yeah, I mean, at this point, I think that it would be a random thing by the way everything looks.
Like
kind of side by side with kind of what you're saying. It was basically an incident on the road that escalated to the point where somebody just happened to have a weapon and they discharged it. And that's it. And it's a sad fact. Now, that brings us to the online drama that kind of kicked up. And what we need to say before we talk about this is this could all be fake. I mean, every single person who's posting here, it's a total of 4 people. It could all be the same person. Could be me. And there's no verification. There's no way to tell. None of the information that's brought up by any of these people is unique enough for no one else to know. If you did enough research. So, and they, granted, they do tell a lot of, they go into these like rabbit holes of far too personal information publicly. It's like, have you people heard of the internet? It's not really for this.
If you think too, a lot of the stuff posted on sitcoms online is old. It's like very early 2000s when
people are more liberal.
When I started going on social media, my mom always said, careful what you post on the internet because it sticks with you.
Right.
People will always see it. And I think before social media was wildly popular, people didn't have that warning. They just posted whatever because they didn't.
Yeah, this
people
first
didn't
post,
realize that the internet and social media would blow up the way it did.
This first post is about from 2008. So yeah, It's still the early days, but she does reference MySpace. You know, so we're talking about a really different era of the internet. And basically, it's the poster's name is Nicole Marie Hurley, and her claim is that she is the first child of David Hurley from his first marriage. She was 12 years old at the time of his death. She had not seen him for about 3 years. I'm just going to say it. He seems like a bit of a deadbeat dad. And from what we understand, that wife number 2, who is Pam, did not get along with wife number 1. And it kind of hurt Nicole and David's relationship. And one of the things that kind of stood out to me, and I pointed out as a trend, I don't know if 2 occurrences really equal a trend, but she claimed, Nicole claimed that she couldn't even go to the funeral of David with her mother, because when they did go, they were forcefully removed from the funeral home, which I think is highly unlikely. Unless they were fighting. Unless it was like, you gotta leave because you're making a scene.
I'm sure there were police there because it was a murder.
Mm-hmm. Is that a case? Is that a situation like if somebody's murdered?
I mean, I only know this from Law and Order.
Mm-hmm.
But if somebody is murdered and there will be police presence at the funeral.
And you think that they would actually remove an ex-wife and the child of the person who was murdered? I think it's highly unlikely. Coming from... I want to believe that that's something that would be unlikely, unless, of course, there was yelling and fighting and something, causing a disruption to the entire ceremony.
Right.
One of the quotes from the post to see the stories on the news and see the articles in the paper mention that he is survived by his 3 sons and no mention of his daughter really makes me feel like crap. And I can really see her point there. And that's what her post was about, is that she exists.
She does claim that her mother would call every news station and newspaper to make mention of Nicole and say, David has a daughter from his first marriage. Mm-hmm. He is survived by his daughter. So then it seems like Pam did get remarried after David passed away. Mm-hmm. And on this sitcoms online message board, her daughter from Pam's daughter from Pam's second marriage follows up with a very detailed resume, as you put it, of her brothers, and later alludes to her theory that it's possible Kathleen was responsible for hiring somebody. There is a discussion of money payouts, but you said, and I agree, I don't see the real motive for killing David.
Yeah, I think it would be one of these situations where if you hired somebody or did it yourself, you're going to be investigated either way.
Right.
Well, how much money are we really talking about here? We can't be talking about that much money.
I agree.
But so that seemed like it kind of came and went. The posts are very long. A lot of people love the drama, and that was it. You know, Nicole and Lacey just, I have to hope that maybe they even got offline and shot a few emails back and forth and kind of like buried the hatchet, or, you know, just kind of said, all right, everything's fine. Let's just move on in life. Kathleen versus Sean. This is another one. This was a little bit more, in my opinion, dramatic and strange. Kathleen being wife number 1, of course. I'm sorry.
This exchange was on the Unsolved.com message board. So Unsolved Mysteries has...
highly unmoderated.
Right. And the Unsolved.com looks old. It looks like an old website. It has all of the cases, all of the updates, but they haven't just updated. It's very, the layout of the site is very dated.
All right. So I know for a fact that Unsolved.com is not, I mean, you know this as well, is the official website for Unsolved Mysteries. Which is crazy because it looks like it was made in 1996. That being said, if you enjoy those comments, please go and read them, take your screenshots, because it's going away. They're rebuilding this whole site, and all of it's going to go quickly away. There is so much questionable material on that website in those comment sections. I've archived it, so don't worry too much about that. I can always go and grab it myself, but that whole site is being revamped as we speak. And most likely it's going to be launched when the next season of Unsolved Mystery comes, which I'm not sure when that's coming.
I think summer 22 is what I heard.
Looking forward to it.
So, anywho, Unsolved.com drama. Kathleen, David's first wife, visited the site and made claims about David being abusive, drug addict, and a gambler. Claims he was physically removed from the hospital because he didn't like the way Kathleen chose to spell Nicole. Yeah, David wanted to spell it Nichole, which is how his mother spelled it. But Kathleen spelled it Nicole.
So you need to be forcefully removed from the hospital right after his wife gave birth.
Right.
I mean, yes, it could happen. I'm sure it has happened. But did it happen?
Kathleen said no one deserves to die like this, but said she wouldn't be surprised if he was involved in something.
Yeah, because she does allude to gambling, drugs. I think she even said that he cheated on her. Did she say that? I don't know for sure about that.
I wouldn't be, if her other claims are true, I wouldn't be surprised.
But she strongly disagrees with the assertion that he was a saint. I mean, they really need to make sure the world knows that David was a sketchy guy. But then the son swoops in, Sean.
Sean, which I believe is the middle son.
Yeah, I mean, he basically, I like the way he approached it.
Sean is the middle son.
I like the way he approached it in the beginning. He's like, look, I'm not saying what you're saying isn't true. I think that it most likely is. But have you thought about accepting Christ as your Lord and Savior, which is essentially the way the post goes. And he's like, I love you. I'm like, this guy, this guy is an interesting way of discussing things. I don't know. That was the first time I thought, like, maybe these aren't the real people.
Sean swoops in, states that although he's not calling Kathleen a liar, but his experience with David was far better.
Yeah.
He said he seems really religious and feels Kathleen, if she hasn't already, should seek out Christ.
Yeah. And he said it in a nice way, too. He's like, forgiveness.
He seems like a really nice guy. Nicole mentioned, too, in her forum that she lived in the same area as her half-brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And David Hurley Jr., who's the oldest son, Nicole went to get her car serviced, and the mechanic said, "Oh, are you related to David Hurley?" And she said, "Yeah, he's my half-brother." And he's like, "What?"
But then he said, but he doesn't know it.
But he doesn't know it.
Right. I mean, I think that's the key right there. It's kind of... Because I would just question that entire thing, like, what are you talking about?
Apparently, the car mechanic reached out to David, and David didn't give a shit and never reached out to Nicole. But Nicole did connect with one of the other boys on MySpace, and they chatted for a while. She said she was interested in meeting and getting to know each other, and then they didn't want to meet.
Yeah, I can't blame them. I mean, it's one of these kind of... Everybody seems so sketchy in this little circle of friends. I do want to just mention a few things. I don't know if it was confirmed that he actually went to the donut shop. I guess it's not that important, but...
Well, if the timeline is... like, you already said the timeline was sketchy.
I think so.
And...
what did he do for an hour and a half?
He said he got donuts between 3 and 3:30. So did anyone at the donut shop, were any of them interviewed?
I would say they were, of course, but there's no
mention of it.
Yeah.
And then somebody brought up online too, were there donuts in his car? Did somebody check his car for donuts?
Yeah, I posted that more as a humorous thing, because it's like, well, like, it just seems kind of like a strange thing to post. You know? Now, they had some type of damage to the car. I'm wondering, did David drive a complete shitbox? You know, was it covered in dents? But the damage that would have been caused would have left some trace of the other car. Now, if it was stolen, of course, that would be a whole other situation.
Right. And I don't think we even mentioned the car. It was supposedly a champagne-colored Honda Prelude.
Woo, that's a fancy one.
And in 1992, a Honda Prelude is equivalent to a Ford Fusion. There's tons of them on the road.
Yeah, it's like your basic car, you know. I guess one of the things that kind of stands out is why no mention from Unsolved Mysteries for the first marriage or the daughter. I think that it would have added another element of discussion, because We're not a newscast. Remember, you see it in the beginning of every episode. We're not a newscast. We're essentially like the true crime version of TMZ. So why not bring in the wife and the daughter?
Pam tried to keep them out of it.
But Pam doesn't have control over the producers.
I know, but it was Pam's brother who reached out to Unsolved Mysteries. And I know Unsolved Mysteries does do their own research, but they get a lot of the interviews from the immediate family. And I think Pam just made no mention of it. And perhaps Pam even said, I won't be interviewed if you mention it.
Yeah, it's possible.
That's my thought.
Then you would just go to Kathleen and probably get all the juice. Would have been a totally different story. But yeah, I mean, the entire story is kind of crazy. But at this point, now I think my theory has changed. I think it's one of two things. I think it's possible it's a random attack. It's just, that's what happened. It's some psychopath shot him to death, or shot him and then he died later. But then I think that there is something missing in that hour. I think that there's another woman. I think there's a drug deal. There's something going on in that period of missing time, which caused this altercation to happen.
I think, building on that theory, I have two very similar theories. It was a random attack, and you said this is the easiest to accept.
I think so.
But I think if it was a random attack, that the perpetrator did not want authorities to get involved. He didn't want to, maybe he didn't even have insurance on his car.
Maybe he stole the car. I mean, maybe he murdered someone else.
Maybe the car was stolen. Yeah. We know it was an illegal gun. So it was, just a minor car accident, and the perpetrator shot and killed David just so he didn't have to be involved. Second theory, which is, building on your theory, is that David was a drug addict, a gambler, had some debts when he was with Kathleen.
Yeah, and we know this. I mean, Kathleen did say this, and nobody came in and said, like, no, he's not. He's never done any drugs. And
then he cleaned up. When he met Pam, he cleaned up, got clean. But you never know, he might have some debts from his past, and his past caught up with him.
Totally possible. Then the least plausible. Then we get into the strange theories. Yeah, I mean, did the ex-wife hire a hitman? I don't think so.
You say...
You said she's a jealous bitch.
You said least likely, but stranger things have happened. What would be the motive?
And what would be the motive? Would it be financial? I don't think David had a lot of money.
No. And if he did have any money, the ex-wife wouldn't get any.
Now, we don't know if Kathleen ever remarried, right?
Not that I know of.
Because I would also have to wonder, David had to be paying some level of child support, I would imagine. But he had not seen his daughter in 3 years. Like, what was that all about?
Supposedly shoot, I did see something.
About, why they didn't?
I think I saw something online that supposedly Pam hit the daughter.
Right. Yes. I forgot about this.
And then Kathleen wouldn't let David see the daughter after that.
But it was as though she was telling the story that she came back from David's house. The daughter came back from David's house. And then she was told by Kathleen that Pam hit her. Almost making it seem like, well, I'm going to say that she hit you. Very strange. The whole thing is very strange.
But it does sound like, too, that David wanted to see Nicole, but Kathleen cut him out. After the supposed interaction with Pam, Kathleen said, nope,
Well, I'm hoping that everybody kind of went on with their own lives. I think we tracked down a few of the kids on Facebook. Of course, we won't release that information. And everybody seems adjusted. People have kids. They're kind of running on. And they didn't let this kind of hold them back from moving forward. And it doesn't look like they all live near each other anymore either.
Right.
Kind of spread out, which is a good thing, I think, especially when you have such a negative situation like this. Of course, Sean, I don't know, maybe has his own ministry, for all we know.
Perhaps, maybe. Two more theories. One's a little wild. It says insurance money. We hear from chatter online that money was involved after the death and possible a hitman was hired by Pam. We both say highly unlikely.
Yeah, I think that's bull.
Final theory, I kind of mentioned this a minute ago, that his past caught up with him.
Yeah.
Maybe he's a clean guy and a good dad, but David's ex-wife did not have anything nice to say. Perhaps it was an old drug debt.
It looks like we're never going to know exactly what happened. I also think his description was kind of one of those kind of things where it's like, it was a black guy. You know, it was...
Right.
Kind of one of these things. I mean, of course, a black guy could have been there and shot him. Of course.
Right. And I'm wondering, too, if he knew who shot him and he just didn't elaborate because he didn't want to get himself in trouble.
Because we get no description. Like, none.
Right.
Do we even learn what the car was that hit him?
We don't learn exactly, but there's just theories that it was a champagne Honda Prelude. Maybe.
Oh, that was the car that hit him. I'm sorry.
Right.
He was driving a van, right? I'm sorry.
Yeah, he was driving an old green van. This happened in 1992, and I saw somewhere that it was like mid-70s make.
Mm-hmm.
So he's driving almost a 20-year-old car at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very questionable thing, but at the same time, I don't think we'll ever see an outcome to this particular case. It's one of those it sits where it sits, unfortunately.
Right.
But so Catherine, I want to thank you, but before I end this episode, I do want to just throw in, it's like going to be a 2-minute little thing. I'm going to play a couple of cover songs from Unsolved Mysteries. Throughout YouTube, I've found a number of people who are doing cover songs of the Unsolved Mysteries theme song. And I found 4 of them that I think are really interesting. Of course, our theme song is classic, and that comes from Artificial Fear. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. So we're not really looking to replace anything, but I think it'd be kind of fun also to kind of mix it up and play some of these things and people who share our love of Unsolved Mysteries. So I'll just play maybe like just the beginning of some of these. Here's another metal version.
The events. What you're about to see is not a news broadcast.
Has a little bit of that whole Artificial Fear sound, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So there's that guy, and that's 331E Rock. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. This one is called the Dark Synth Remake from Night Runner Music. It's interesting, the different styles of music that are approaching these type of things. This guy, he's Taurus Tarkus, and it's titled just Original Opening Theme. He's surrounded by synthesizers and organs and all this stuff, and he's pretty dramatic, but I'm going to play his version is really, really dramatic. mean, this guy is like the hands on every keyboard, he's super multi-talented. And one more. It's from Michael Boyd and Gary Malkin. The name of his channel is El Marciano Vampiro Robot. And it looks as though it's a cello. I think they're pretty good. If you have a favorite, or if you know of a really interesting one, please send it to Mark at Unsolved Mysteries. Mark at stillunsolved.com. Whoops.
I do like the cello. I thought that was an interesting vibe. But I really like the metal version.
The one that we use, or as well?
Well, I was going to say I am a little biased because our theme song is a metal.
It's awesome, yeah.
But the one that you played, I liked it because they threw in the voiceover. I think it was a nice mix of the voiceover and then the theme song. And I do like the metal vibe.
Yeah, this is Catherine's choice here. But all in all, I think that it's good to see people doing their own renditions, and it's fun to hear all of these. I do like the cello one as well. I like kind of real performances, and it's fun to watch because you can actually see him playing it. But I'll put a link to all of these videos in the show notes. Okay. But yeah, again, it's if you just search for Michael Boyd and Gary Malkin. Good job, guys. El Marciano Vampiro Robot. I don't know. And yeah, give them a like or let them know in the comments that you heard it on this show. But Catherine, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me today.
This was a fun episode, Mark. I'll see you next week.
Tonight we have been confronted with an entire catalog of unexplained and unsolved events. Tune in next time as Unsolved Mysteries Rewind discusses another collection of unsolved mysteries. Until then, we can only look and wonder.